Hello, hello. Welcome back to Spellbound. I'm BJ the Book Witch, and this is an episode of Book Both Ways, looking at books as both a reader and a writer. And today we are talking about female friendships. So I first had this idea way back in February while I was driving to Alabama for a Barbie-themed Galentine's weekend with some of my girlfriends. So I have been loving the increase that we've been seeing across all genres, depicting positive, healthy, nuanced, and supportive female friendships. And I am so relieved that we have, for the most part, retired the I'm not like other girls protagonist and the idea that being friends with other women is dramatic, catty, or frivolous. So I wanted to put the spotlight on some books across a few different genres that depict some of the best female friendships that I've read. Because as we all know, behind every great woman is more great women cheering her on. So let's get started. So in fiction slash chicklet slash magical realism, we have The Peach Keeper by Sarah Addison Allen. So Sarah Addison Allen writes fiction with like a twinge of magical realism, and all of her stories take place in small towns in the South in states like North Carolina or Georgia. So this book is about the Blue Ridge Madam, once the grandest home in the small town of Walls of Water, and Willa, whose great-great-grandfather built the home. But due to scandal and financial ruin, the home has fallen into disrepair. Paxton, the town socialite, vows to restore the home, turn it into an inn, and restore it to its former glory, leaving Willa unamused as she is more than content to let the home and the legacy of her family sort of fade into memory. But when a skeleton is discovered on the property, buried beneath the peach tree on the front lawn, both Willa and Paxton realize that this generations-old mystery involves them both, and that true friendship can last forever. I love this book. I have read it probably 4 or 5 times, and I love Sarah Addison Allen's writing style. Her books are ethereal, whimsical, and charming, with always a strong emotional gravity to them. And they all depict really strong sisterhood bonds. In chicklet slash contemporary romance, I have Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a sapphic rom-com about Delilah Green, a jaded and cynical up-and-coming photographer from New York City who is hired to shoot her estranged stepsister's wedding back in the small hometown in Oregon where they're from. After returning home, Delilah is forced to confront some pretty difficult truths: that she may have a grief-skewed perspective of her very lonely childhood, that her stepsister is about to marry a grade A prick, and that she is totally in love with her stepsister's best friend Claire. This is a 10 out of 10 rom-com. It is funny and fast-paced and very spicy and just has this fantastic protagonist that you can't help but root for. But hands down, the best thing about this book is its depiction of female friendships. It portrays the complexities and humor and nuance of what support really does look like between real female friendships, of how to balance support and autonomy for their friend with their protectiveness and defensive of her, of how they recognize each other's authenticity and how they champion each other all the time. This was such a great book and so refreshing, and it super passed the Bechdel test. It's just so refreshing to see that their friendship has its own nucleus and center of gravity, and that the external context around it is really just that, external. And that includes the groom in this situation. He is merely circumstantial to the identity of the friend group itself and the identities of the main characters. This book totally passes the Bechdel test, and I highly recommend it. In fiction slash literary fiction, we have The Witches of New York by Amy McKay. This is a fantastic book about a group of women who run a tea and tincture shop in turn-of-the-century New York. It's about how they navigate the changing world as spiritualism falls out of vogue around this time period, and how the evangelical church starts to radicalize and really target individuals that they feel are a plague upon society. What I love about this book is that it is the female friendship itself that saves each of the protagonists and each of their subplots, and that the story as a whole is about this friend group as a unit. In YA, I have The Year of Secret Assignments by Jaclyn Moriarty, and the Australian title is Finding Cassie Crazy. So, this is one of my favorite books of all time because it was one of my favorite books in my teen years. So, that said, it is about 20 years old now. That said, I do think that this book holds up and doesn't date itself too terribly, specifically because of the premise, which is a pen pal letter exchange between two rival high schools in Sydney, Australia. One is Ashbury, which is a private all girls school, prep school, and Brookfield, which is a public high school that is rumored to be full of dangerous teen criminals. So, in this book, three best friends, Emily, Lydia, and Cassie, are each assigned a pen pal at Brookfield. And when the letters start flying, all bets are off. There is romance, there's school rivalry, there's pranks spinning out of control. But through all of this, Emily and Lydia start noticing that Cassie is becoming more and more secretive and withdrawn, especially when it comes to her own pen pal, Matthew Dunlop. So they start investigating only to discover that there is no Matthew Dunlop enrolled at Brookfield. So who has Cassie been writing to? So this book is an epistolary novel, which means it is entirely told through letters, the letters between Ashbury and Brookfield, like the pen pal letters, but also IMs, journal entries, bulletins, school announcements, memos, like sticky notes, all kinds of different things. It is silly and whimsical, delightful, and very, very fast paced. But my favorite thing about this novel is the friendship between these three teenage girls. So they're all going through puberty and they're all experiencing grief and self doubt and self consciousness and navigating what it's like to be taken seriously by adults while also learning how to take yourself seriously. I love this book. It is so much fun, and also it's just really fun to see this like tight bond of female friendships in like teenhood. And in YA fantasy, I have Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. I have talked about this book so much, and I can't stop. It is can't stop, won't stop when it comes to this book. I love this book so much. I also found out that this duology has a third book coming out this fall, Vengeance of the Pirate Queen, which are all of my favorite words in one title. Random fun fact that just popped into my noggin. The first week of my first show writing role with Disney, I was in some sort of like meet the team meeting over at this niche place called Disney Event Group that does custom creative character events for affluent clients. And they gave everyone a nickname based on your character, like your personhood character, and based on how you filled out a questionnaire of like the things that you enjoy. And I was nicknamed that day Brittany Jean the Pirate Queen, and they called me that there like every day for 6 months. So anyway, fun fact, Brittany Jean the Pirate Queen. So yeah, Vengeance of the Pirate Queen is the title of the third book. And when I first learned about this a couple of weeks ago, I ugly cried so hard that I gave myself a migraine and had to take an Excedrin. True story. So this book is about total badass pirate captain Alosa, who captains her own ship of all-women pirates, of an all-women pirate crew. And she carries out secret missions in service of her father, the king of all the pirates. This book has everything that I care about. Pirates, mermaids, adventure, sword fights, espionage, romance, women in leadership, and the coolest pirate crew of all women pirates. Like, I would read an entire series, I would read an entire saga based on their pirate crew alone. It was excellent. Excellent. And the Serpent and Dove trilogy by Shelby Mahurin. So this series follows Lou, a witch on the run in a very Paris-inspired fantasy world, and Reed, a chaser or witch hunter, as they get tangled up in a pretty complex adventure. What I love about this series is its intensity. So everything starts at like level 7 from the start, and then just keeps rising steadily throughout the series. And the romance itself is the same way. It's wound taut as hell from the outset, and then just keeps, and then the stakes for our protagonists just keep rising throughout. And then the consequences for our protagonist and for the mistakes that they make along the way escalate along with the plot. So it's a lot of a lot. But what's cool about that is that what anchors this story, what brings it its emotional depth, and what keeps it like really grounded is not necessarily the romantic relationship between Lou and Reed, but it's the female friendship between Lou and her best friend Cosette, or Coco, who is another witch of a different like clan, a different type, but also who is extraordinarily powerful in her own right. And so the two of them consistently bring out the best in each other every single time that they're together. They play off of each other's strengths and weaknesses in a way that's so much richer than the romance itself. But also the friendship and the unit that they make is what creates the core of this found family aspect throughout the series. And also it's what brings the moments of levity and whimsy and what raises the stakes consistently. So I really think that it's cool that this story, it doesn't necessarily revolve around the friendship, but that is what keeps everything grounded as the story itself escalates and moves and raises in intensity. Is this friendship is what has grounded us from the beginning and what keeps us grounded throughout. In fantasy new adult, I have Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. So this was tied for my favorite book of last year, and it was tied with Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This book is so incredible. It is a beacon for the millennial plight, and the sequel actually comes out this month, and I am beside myself with excitement. So this is a retelling of the fairy tale The Goose Girl, in which Vanja, a thief, a liar, and imposter, is cursed by a god to, quote, return what was lost, or she will be consumed by her greed, literally turning into a pile of rubies and diamonds. This book has so much depth and social commentary. It is truly outstanding, and I talk about it in great length here. But it has a place in this list because of obviously its female friendships. And what makes this selection unique is that our protagonist doesn't start the story with any female friendships or with any friends in general. So we see in this story what it's like to develop and navigate new friendships, especially friendships with women, especially with, from first glance, you don't have anything in common, but what it's like to come from two completely different worlds, but still recognize your intersectionality and your commonality in the fact that you are women and what that means in this world, even in a fantasy world. So those were 7 examples of fantastic female friendships, but now I want to hear from you. So what are some of the best literary friendships that you've ever read? Let me know down below. And then if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you loved it, hit subscribe. And of course, there's always Instagram. So take care and happy reading.